everyone, welcome to the fresh videocast episode of Cozy Conversations. And it's been quite a long time that I posted a video, but since a lot of you were asking why am I not doing podcast or video podcast per se, I'm back here again, and today we have none other than distinguished Toastmaster Ms Mannsi Agrawal, and I'm so happy to have her here because I've been following her journey since very long. And for this interview, I researched a lot about her, but I think there's no better person who could introduce her than herself. So, Mannsi ma'am, giving your introduction.
I love that. I love how you put me in a spot like that. That's great. Okay. So I'm Mannsi Agrawal. I'm an international corporate trainer. I'm primarily based in Nepal, but I work in many different countries. I've been doing a lot of coaching sessions and a lot of different training sessions. I think, adding value to the lives of people through words, because the moment we communicate better, whether it's in person, whether it's on stage, whether it's on camera, what happens is that we manage to get the right perception out there and we manage to share the right stories. So I think this is what I enjoy doing. I work with a lot of companies, help them understand their customer service, their branding, their social media strategy, and I really enjoy what I do because it gives me the opportunity to meet a lot of wonderful people, and that's what I'm doing here today as well.
I think your Instagram bio itself says my words are my ikigai.
Right.
So it just shows like how much you value words and what you say. And today we are going to be talking about Mannsi ma'am's journey from Calcutta to Kathmandu and how the transition period for her looked like. For people who don't know, like she shifted to Nepal in 2006.
You've done some good amount of research from my Insta to I don't know where all, yes, 2006.
Yes, you shifted to Nepal for like 2006 for your marriage when you were 21.
Absolutely.
So how was that process like? How was the process of transition for you like from shifting from like Calcutta to Kathmandu, the city of joy, to city of temples, I guess?
You know, it was, when I look back, I think it worked out fine for me. But if you asked me then what the process was like, I promise you it was extremely painful. It was excruciatingly painful. Because at that point, I was 21. I was studying in college. I was in second year economics. I was a very good student. And my father pulled me out of college because he felt the pressure. He said, you know, I've got two daughters, they need to get married. So my father pulled me out of college. I'm the elder daughter. And he said, you know, this arranged marriage proposal has come and you need to go in for it. At that point for me, it was heartbreaking and devastating because the one thing I wanted to do was study. I was extremely ambitious, extremely passionate, and I felt as though my wings were being clipped, right? Yet, because I was a good daughter and I didn't want to rebel and I just wanted to sort of keep peace around, I went in and I said yes for it. It was very difficult for me because right before I came to Kathmandu, I was in Pune, which is much faster pace-wise than Kolkata. And Kathmandu is, in a way, pace-wise, just the pace of life-wise, slightly behind, let's say, Kolkata. So I came from a very different place. My worldview was very different. I come into Kathmandu, and at that point, this is 2006, right after a lot of upheavals, political upheavals within the country. So Kathmandu itself was going through a transition, you know. So one person who's anyways upset, coming into a place that is anyways going through a lot of upheaval. I think this was the perfect recipe for disaster. I was very upset. It was difficult for me. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know anybody. I got married in here, yes, but apart from my husband and 3 relatives from his family, I had never seen anybody. And this is, let's say, mind you, pre-WhatsApp, you know, pre-communication. There were power cuts. I had never seen a power cut in the last God knows how many years before that. So for me to adjust into this different infrastructure, initially it required every bit of strength and every bit of dedication I had to actually be here and do that. But honestly, once I sort of got used to the place, once I started realizing that there is more to this place beyond the infrastructure, beyond the problems, the moment I realized that anything that's happening right now is temporary and it's going to pass, the moment I realized that things are going to get better, the moment I realized that when I start stepping out, I'm going to be much more comfortable. When I find friends, I'm going to be better. The moment that happened, I think the shift started to happen, but it wasn't overnight. It was very difficult for me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all.
So I think one very important learning that I take from your answer is, one, we have come a long way in women empowerment, because back in 2006, Like these days, at least we have the power to rebel. Of course, our parents also want to get us married, and they also have these sorts of dreams. But we can rebel. We can at least like be like, okay, not now. And the second important thing is that any beautiful journey, starting might not be as beautiful. It might include a lot of pain. It might include a lot of sacrifices.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, when you talk about the starting of a journey, we have a preset mindset, right? Like, okay, if I do this, I'll get this. If I study well, I'll get a good job. If I do this, I'll get that. Sometimes, because of these preconceived notions, we stop wondering and we stop being curious about looking at the other roads that may exist. For me, because I was suddenly pulled out of everything that I thought was the path of my life. You know, my life was okay. Economics pursue, I'm going to get a good degree, I'm going to then do my MBA, and I'm going to take up a corporate job, right?
Yeah.
That was the only direction I had in mind. I did not know that other paths could exist. But the moment I was pulled out of that, and suddenly I'm like, okay, now I can't have, the only path I saw in front of me doesn't exist anymore, it's not an option for me anymore. I started looking. So I think this entire darkness really gave way to other opportunities and other roads that I pretty much created for myself, and like I kept on building bridges and climbing through them through the journey. So I think that is something that really is extremely beautiful about the process of discovery and approaching anything with a lot of curiosity.
And I think one very important lesson that I take from what you say is it's so important to bloom where you are planted.
Yes.
Like, as you say, like you were sent to Nepal, maybe not by choice, but because of circumstances, because of the current situations, but you chose to like bloom here in Nepal and create a journey for yourself, which is the
Yes.
most beautiful thing about your journey.
Yes. Also, that's possibly because my mom has been very, you know, growing up, we maybe didn't have the most, you know. But I've been extremely privileged, and I understand and I recognize my privilege. My privilege has been two things. Number one, my education. I went to a fabulous school. Number two, my mom. You know, my mom has been the biggest privilege in my life because she built the three of us, three siblings. She built the three of us in such a way that we knew life is going to throw lemons at you. You have to continuously, consciously, and very strongly look at creating lemonade out of it. And we were extremely programmed to do that. So anytime something went wrong, let's say there's a power cut. Coming back to the simple example, right? Let's say there's a power cut. Instead of being like, oh my god, it's hot and you know there's no electricity, what do we do? We'd be like, okay, let's play the shadow game. We've got a candle, let's play the shadow game. So even as kids, we were always programmed to look into the positives of whatever life presented at us. And I think that's what I've carried through all these years with me. And that is possibly what has helped in creating whatever I've managed to achieve.
I think one beautiful thing about yourself and your journey was about how you chose to make the best out of whatever was given. So you were like, अब life ले जे पनि throw गर्यो. It's not in my control, but what is in my control is how I choose to respond to it. And I think you were a living example of that.
Absolutely, it's happened to me so many times in the past, you know. I'll give you a very unrelated example, but it's just something that also taught me a lot about who I am as a person and how I can be mentally very strong if I'm pushed to that edge. So I was traveling with my best friend 2019 in Barcelona, and we land. We literally land in a new country where we don't speak the language, and we're followed by a group of 5 people, and we're robbed. She's not robbed, I'm robbed, so my passport goes. So you land in a new country and you've lost your passport within the first hour. That can be extremely painful and scary, right? Especially since there's no, you know, there's no people to take care of you, you're there, you don't have papers, your phone goes, your passport goes, you lose a bit of your money. For me at that point, I had a choice. Either I could be crying, which I did. I did cry for the first 2 hours. And after 2 hours, I'm like, what the hell? You know, you lost your passport, fine. But at least you managed to get here. You've been praying for this day to happen. You are here, make the most of it. So everything went wrong. I did whatever I had to in terms of due diligence. I went to the police station. I got my paperwork done. I did all of that. Yet after all of that was over, I was like, fine, we're sorted now. Now we're going to have the time of our lives. So, you know, in fact, my best friend, when she was like doing this hashtag for this trip, she said, when life throws lemon, make tequila. right? We didn't have any tequila on the trip, yet that's what the whole scene was, because we were thrown a curveball within the first 1 hour of landing. Yet we decided to make the most of it, and yet we decided to have the time of our lives. So that's just who I am. I know anything that happens in my life presents to me two choices. Either I'm going to choose this or I'm going to choose that. And my choice completely determines how I remember that experience. My choice completely determines what I choose to do about the experience and how I choose to react to it. And that's the only power I have. And possibly that's what this is about.
Yeah, like true, like life can give you whatever, but it depends on how you choose to like react to it.
Absolutely.
Of course, failures don't feel good, like they do feel very pathetic, but again, it's your choice how you build yourself
Absolutely.
after that.
Absolutely.
So, like, because you had come to Nepal like after marriage, right after your marriage, as you like took on work, as I researched, you started working from 2007-8. So, as you took up work, how supportive were your in-laws and your partner? How supportive were they towards your dreams?
I didn't have dreams at that point. For me, initially when I started, I was working as brand and marketing manager at City Centre Mall for my book. When I started, I had no dreams. For me, work was an escape. For me, work was a window to another world. For me, work was an opportunity to meet people. For me, it was never, acha, I want to be a marketing manager. Acha, this is the career I want. Absolutely not. I was like a falling leaf just drifting with the wind. Whatever I got, I took it up because that's the only scope, the only hope I had to step out of the boundary of my home. Everybody initially thought it was a joke. I mean, what is she going to do? You know, she's studied economics, now she wants to get into marketing. Of course, she can achieve nothing. This is 2 months. 2 months later, she'll be back home because it's uncomfortable to work. Who wants to wake up early in the morning every day, go for work, sweat the entire day, and then come back home? Everyone thought it was a joke, especially because they felt there was no monetary payback as such. Of course, I was getting paid, yet there was no financial reason for me to do it, and there wasn't substantial monetary payback. So everyone thought, doesn't matter, let her just do whatever she wants. This is a short-lived thing. 3 months she'll be over it. And honestly, this feeling that people had for 3 months went on for 10 years. I kept on persisting, but since people could not see any real result, by result I mean monetary result or acknowledgement, everyone thought it was a joke. Everyone thought I should not be taken seriously. A lot of people within my circle itself were like, she teaches. It was never taken as something that was supposed to be respected because I wasn't an entrepreneur, I wasn't a banker, I didn't fit into the regular mold at all. People from my community, because of the fact that I come from a relatively conservative community, thought, why does she need to work? Is there a financial problem? Why is she doing this? People outside were like, she's just a teacher, she does trainings, what the hell? It's not a big deal. She's not a banker, she's not doing this. So I was never taken seriously by anybody. Forget the family, even my husband was my biggest break, I mean, rather than being a support, he was the first person who would discourage me, and we talk about it still. And it used to pain me at that point, but for me, work was the only identity I had. It's not like too many people knew me because of my work, absolutely not. Yet that was my space, my time, and whatever I did in that work was my own. Nobody ever helped me. And there were many people to pull me down. I think the only reason this worked out right for me, the single reason this worked out fine for me, is because I knew I had no choice. Is because I was so persistent, so determined. Pull me down, I will stand up again, and again, and again. And trust me, I have done this possibly more than 100 times, 300 times, I don't even know. Tried so many different things, nothing worked out. Was willing to give it another shot, willing to wake up again with a smile on my face and just get back at it. And today when I look back, yes, there have been more failures than successes, 100%. Yet when I look back, I know I have walked a path. It's been my own path, and that's what I'm proud of. And when I look back, the number of skills I've developed through the way is unbelievable. I was actually thinking about, okay, what if I wasn't a trainer? What would I be doing? What if I wasn't a coach? What would I be doing? And I'm like, yeah, marketing, branding, photography, cinematography, editing, writing, speaking, voiceovers, dubbing. I've dabbled in all of these with quite a bit of success in 3 or 4 at least, which means that when I look back, each day might have seemed like a very trivial step, but when you look back, it amounts to a lot. Incrementally, you've grown a lot. So There is a sense of pride maybe. I would not like to call this arrogance because absolutely not. I'm the most curious person. I try to learn every single day. I will be the first person to ask questions when I don't understand something. Yet I know that it hasn't been futile. And the reason I share this is because I know right now a lot of people are going through a lot of things which makes them feel that their journey and the pain and the failures and the pullbacks are not worth it, you know. But when you look back and you look back through those 15 years, you're like, oh my God, I've actually come quite a way. And that's what feels wonderful.
Yeah, I think one beautiful thing that I learned from your journey was consistency. A lot of people think that wherever you reach in life, it's because of that one break or of that one day, but not really. Like there's a lot that goes beyond, and I'm sure like you went viral after the video of 7 reasons to never ever visit Nepal. But before that, also you had a lot of work done, which eventually resulted out in you being you.
See, I'll tell you what. There's two ways, okay, that I would like to answer this, and I would like to actually add to this. I was interviewing Dr. Bhagwan Koirala once, right? And now he is a cardiac surgeon. Everyone knows how absolutely wonderful he is. And I said, Doctor, you save say 5 to 6 to 8 lives a day. How does that feel? And people are looking at you as Bhagwane ho, to Bhagwan Koirala, he's God because he's giving the power of life and he's doing that. He said, Mansi, if anybody did this for 35 years, they would be able to do it as well. There's absolutely nothing special about me. I am just doing something that I have practiced over and over and over and over and over and over again. And incrementally, I have grown. I have grown 1% every day, or I've grown 0.5% every day. And that compounds, right? So when you look back at something like this, just like him, to him, his story is very I'm just doing what I'm supposed to. Yeah, yesterday I did it like this, today I'm doing it slightly better because I'm better at it, I'm more experienced. So what he said very beautifully summed up the fact that, it's a little bit of change that compounds to a lot, that becomes a very big thing. But in his head, it's very ordinary because that's what he's doing. That's what he's trained to do. That's what he's accustomed to do, right? The other thing I want to say is, going viral isn't the most difficult thing anymore. There's an algorithm. If you understand how it works, you can go viral. Of course, I didn't know it then. At that point, had I known it, I would have gone more viral maybe, or more frequently viral maybe, right? But trust me, people go viral all the time, yet not so many changes happen in their lives as a result of that. Because I had this huge body of work behind me to back up that sudden shot at fame or whatever I got, I was able to sort of stabilize and then make the most of it. So going viral isn't the answer. Consistently working and then using that platform that you get because that sudden boost is what really takes you to the next level. And perhaps in my case, the timing was right because I went viral, as you said, in 2020. You've done your research very thoroughly. Congratulations on that. And in 2007, from then till 2020, I had learned so many different skills that I could actually use as I went forward in my career. And I think that's what I want to say to people. People think, you're very pachi, do this, that's going to happen. That doesn't really happen when you see a TikTok video, a 15-second TikTok video that does really well. Well, there are at least 300 videos before that that haven't done all that well. Yet this person has kept up with it. So there is a lot of effort and a lot of mindset that goes into that, a lot of mindfulness that goes into that, a lot of thought that goes into that. So I think these are some things that people need to keep in mind. 2 minutes noodles is not a concept that exists in the real world of success and excellence, because I don't believe in success as a concept. I believe in excellence a lot more. 2 minutes noodles doesn't work. It has to take a lot of process. There's a lot of struggle, and that shows when you go out to work, when you go out to perform, because the kind of experience you come with really adds every day.
So I think you just took me back to the book Atomic Habits, because in the book Atomic Habits, when you correct them molecules, okay, like तिमीलाई लाग्छ कि तिम्रो every day does not matter, but even if you change like by 1% every day, like if you look at it at the end of the year, you'll have like changed a lot, and that is how change happens. Like it's not all of a sudden, but it's about getting better every day. Only like with our generation, one thing that I've noticed in myself is that it becomes very difficult to become persistent, because we feel okay, I'm trying so hard, why am I not being successful? And like persevering during that time might be very difficult, but it's worth it. Like, I would say that it's worth it, and it's important, especially Hamro generation. I say everybody wants to become famous quite fast, but I think the idea is not to become famous. The idea is to do what you're good at doing and becoming 1% better at it every day, and at the end of the day you'll see the results like coming out. That is what I believe.
Right. Here's the thing. So I just want to add two things to that. Do you know the formula of what happens if you get 1% better every day? You spoke about it, Atomic Habits, James Clear, right?
Yeah.
The simple mathematical formula of compounding by 1% every day. So let's say today I'm 1, and I become 1% better every day. And tomorrow I'm going to be 1.01, right?
Yeah.
And if I compound this, so 1.01 to the power 365, I'm not a mathematician, I pretty much mugged it up. 1.01 to the power 365 equals 37.8. So on the 1st of January, if I'm 1, on the 2nd of January, I'm 1.01. If I keep on compounding this by 1% every day, on the 31st of December, I will be 37.8 times, not percent, times better than what I was when I started out. On the other hand, if I compound it the other way, so if I'm 1 and then I go 0.99, and if I go minus by 1% every day and we're compounding that, at the end of the year, I'll be 0.03% of what I was when I started. So the power of compounding, whether it's money, whether it's habits, is unbelievable. And I think that this is something we don't understand. You correctly mentioned, people are talking about becoming famous, Insta famous, instant famous, famous on TikTok, 15-second video, right? My generation didn't have that choice. You need to understand, I was born in 1985. I grew up in a world where 16 people were sharing one phone, and the phone would be out of service for 15 days in a month because that's how it was. We grew up in a world where our ambitions were very different. We didn't think of fame as an option. We didn't think of quick money as an option. We grew up in a world where you do a job and you earn 5,000, and then maybe after 6 years you get a promotion and you get 7,000. That was the kind of mindset I grew up with. Of course, that mindset does not work anymore. Of course, the world is faster now. Yet I think that mindset has given me the ability also to be more patient when things are not working out fine. Because we could not open 7 tabs and get any information we wanted. If I needed information, I would have to go, sit in the library, research, read 20 books, and then find that 3-line paragraph that would help me out. So what you need to understand is the skills that we got are relevant to your generation. The persistence, the perseverance that we got have come from an older generation. The 80s kids in a lot of ways I think are the blessed ones. We've sort of seen best of both worlds. And we have been able to use our mindset, our strength, and we've been able to mold that and make that our strength as we move forward. Which is why I don't look for instant anything. I'm the hardest worker in my team. People here will say they get messages from me at 4:30 a.m. 2:65, 2:35. Today I was messaging people. 2:48 I was messaging people. Why? Suddenly woke up, realized I'm not getting sleep. Fine, let me go start writing. So I don't believe in instant anything. It doesn't last.
Yeah, so I think one thing that we can learn from people of your generation is the ability to be patient. Because I think our generation, at least I am slowly losing this ability to be patient, and I would want to develop that. Like, anything worth it takes a lot of time, and I would love to develop that patience within me. So I wanted to ask, like, when you came to Nepal, did you have any such moments where you felt like you were an outsider here because you were not like natively belonging here? I also ask this question because I also I have an Indian passport, and because of that there's a lot of restrictions sometimes, and people go like, oh, timi to marwadi ho, privileged tha, why do you need to work, or things like that, and those kind of things. Like, on a certain level I do recognize that I have certain privileges, but for me Nepal is my home. म यतै जन्मेको, म यतै हुर्केको, अनि अहिले पनि I like calling myself नेपालको छोरी के, like, because I have like drank the water of Nepal ever since I was born here. But still there is this feeling कि हुन्छ नि outsider हो, India को हो, and like that is something that I have experienced. Have you experienced such moments?
The question was worded beautifully. Have you experienced any such moments? I've experienced many such moments. For you, you grew up here. You understood the land, you understood the people, you understood the culture, you understood the language. I come in, freshly minted out of another country. no idea of the culture, because Nepali culture, Hindu maybe, but there's a lot of difference. It's a very distinct, very unique, very beautiful culture. We're sitting here in Bhaktapur. It's a very different thing. I've never been to a place as beautiful as Bhaktapur maybe, right? So for me, understanding the culture, understanding the language, understanding the people was a completely different ball game altogether. I haven't had any moments, I've had many moments. From, cab drivers trying to rob me because I spoke in Ali Naramro Nepali ma sodne, Lai Tripureshwar Samma Hamaj Paisa. So initially I could not even speak Nepali, right? And so I've paid crazy amounts of money for taxis. I have had students who've come up and told me, ma'am, as a World Cup ma India हार्छ अनि भोलि सबैलाई चकलेट तपाईँलाई खुवाउनु पर्छ. I had these kind of incidents. But these are the fun incidents. These are the love incidents, right? I've also had a couple of very disturbing incidents where I've been called out because of my nationality, where I've been called out because I'm Indian, where I've been treated differently, where I've been abused verbally because I've been Indian. And it hurt. I'm not going to lie. It really hurt. At that point, it was a student of mine who got extremely verbally aggressive with me on messages because I'm Indian and because for some reason he had a problem with something. And I took it to the management, of course, to the college where I was training, and it was dealt with in a very nice and professional way. Yet at that point, for the first time, I realized the fact that I was not wanted, not accepted, definitely not loved. So it was a very strange feeling of, they hate me, but I got to make this work because I have nowhere to go, right? And I think it broke my heart. And now when I look back, of course, everything's fine because I have no agenda. I mean, I'm here, I'm doing what I'm doing with my life, right? But yes, I've had these incidents. Yes, they've been painful, but they've taught me a lot. They've also taught me that some people will pull you down no matter what, There's always people, and I still get this a lot, and it's always painful for me. I was participating in Imagine Nepal recently, which is a show where we were trying to promote the tourism of this country. Everyone else had a Nepali passport, right? Nepali passport, naam Nepali, passport Nepali, manche Nepali. म नाम पनि नेपाली छैन हैन, पासपोर्ट पनि नेपाली हैन, मान्छे पनि नेपाली छैन, अंग्रेजीमा कुरा गर्छ. I got 99% amazing reviews on all my social media handles because everyone was really happy that I was doing it. The effort we put in as a team was also very evident. Yet there was this 1% of people that are sending me hateful messages about why I should leave this country, why I should speak in Nepali, do I even know how to speak in Nepali, why I'm pretending to be this, how I'm a raw agent and all sorts of stuff. And I realized that that 1% is always going to be there. It's always going to be there. But again, I have a choice. Am I going to look at the 99% of people who are cheerleaders, who love me, who will come and take a selfie with me, and who are going to love me and hug me and say they love my work, and who are going to welcome me into their homes and open up their hearts to me, or am I going to think about that 1%? And truly I realized that just like my student, that 1% exists. They will be there. And hopefully one day God will give them the strength to look beyond differences and to look at what is similar between us and what binds us together. And hopefully they'll grow beyond that. But maybe it's just them and it's not my fault.
And I think Tapeko journey, you've also become very used to rising from the ashes, or let's say not taking criticisms too personally, because Tapele jab journey start pani garnu bhayo, but even at that point of time people were like, oh, this is just a time pass for her, or she is just a 3-month thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you did not let it bother you then, now when you're getting so much love, that 1% criticism doesn't affect you much because you've grown a thick skin with all the experiences that you've gotten.
Absolutely. When I started out, it really did bother me. I'm not going to say it did not bother me. Just nobody on the planet having faith on you is extremely painful, right? At that point again, I had just two things to look back at. My education. I knew that because I was privileged enough to get the education I got, I would be able to stand up and make the most of whatever was thrown at me, and the fact that my mom was there to support me. But apart from these two things, at that point I had nothing else. And to speak to my mother was very difficult and expensive those days. I'm talking about going to Thamel, going to a booth, spending 70 bucks a minute and making international calls, right? It was once a month that I was possibly speaking to her. So at that point, to to keep that sense alive and to keep going was very difficult. Now it's easier. Somebody says all of this, tries to heckle you, tries to bully you, tries to troll you on social media, block. Or just laugh, because it's funny sometimes.
True, like at that generation, you could just not like stop people from speaking. Like now, at least you have that support system. You have that kind of friends who can like cheer you up on your worst days. How have your identity and personality changed after coming to Nepal? क्यालकाटामा कस्तो थियो तपाईँको पर्सनालिटी र काठमाडौँ आइसकेपछि कसरी तपाईँले आफूलाई रिइन्भेन्ट गर्नु पर्यो के चेन्जेस हेर्नुहुन्छ?
आइडेन्टिटीमा त धेरै ठुलो चेन्ज आयो जस्तो लाग्छ किनकि क्यालकाटामा हुँदाखेरि आई वाज इन स्कुल क्लास 12 सम्म होइन कसको छोरी हो द्याट वाज माई आइडेन्टिटी कुन स्कुलमा पढ्छौ द्याट वाज माई आइडेन्टिटी कहाँ बस्छौ घरमा को छ द्याट वाज माई आइडेन्टिटी राइट आई ह्याड नो पर्सनल आइडेन्टिटी अफ माई ओन एट अल आई कम हियर सन्नी छोरीबाट अब कसको बुहारी हो द्याट वाज द क्वेसन द्याट वाज आस्क्ड मी त्यसपछि कसको श्रीमती हो होइन सो दिज वर द थिङ्स द्याट ह्यापन बट आई रियलाइज द्याट ultimately one day I would hope that somebody would know me by my name. You know? Somebody would know, okay, like Mannsi Agrawal, and then we don't need to ask you further about who your father-in-law is, what does he do, what does your husband do, and who your husband is. And that was my hope, because I didn't want to be known as somebody's something. I wanted to have my own space. Identity ma change bhatsa in the sense that सुरुमा आउँदाखेरि for the first I think 7-8 years it was always अच्छा तपाईको तपाईको हस्बेन्डको नाम के हो तपाईको फादर इन लको नाम के हो हजुरबुवासम्म पनि सोध्नुहुन्थ्यो होइन तर अब चाहिँ I realize people have stopped asking me that. They seem to be content with hi my name is Mannsi Agrawal and they seem to be okay with that जस्तो पनि लाग्छ that reason and that explanation कहाँबाट आएको फुल त्यो रिसर्च चाहिँ चाहिँदैन मान्छेलाई त्यो पनि लाग्छ पर्सनालिटीको कुरा गर्दाखेरि I was a very different person growing up. I was not this at all. I was extremely, kasari bhanne, I think I was extremely high power, man. I would never sit down and speak like this. I was like moving. I'm still moving in life, just to lagcha. I'm always doing something. But I can sit and have these conversations now. I enjoy, I cherish the low periods a bit more than I did now. I think that's a bit of Nepal in me because you know in Nepal you have this sort of slowish pace, everyone's talking softer, everyone's talking slower. It's just that energy and I like that sort of peace that comes along with it. So in a lot of ways this has had a positive impact on me. You know, in Calcutta or in Pune, in whenever I was doing all of this, I was always like everywhere, running fast, walking faster. I'm walking slower, talking softer. So I think there's been a bit of mellowing around the edges. There's been a bit of smoothing there. Maybe I've changed for the better because I enjoy this more. This is more peaceful, right? Also, possibly it's just age. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too old to be super high energy now. I don't know what it is.
But I think जुन तपाईले त्यो आइडेन्टिटीको कुरा गर्नुभयो that is something that I can also relate to because a lot of people still look for like whose daughter are you, whose sister are you, or people calling me okay, you're Vinicia's sister. It's a good thing, like people know me through my brother, but I would like to create an identity of my own. Like please don't ask me where I come from or who my father is and I'm talking to you. Please look at me as an individual.
Absolutely.
Not as somebody's sister, daughter or potential partner at least per se. So त्यो चाहिँ womenहरूलाई धेरै भइरहेको हुन्छ. We are usually identified by our male counterparts and त्यो चाहिँ अलि नभइदिएको भए हुन्थ्यो like we have an identity of our own as well.
Yes, yet I think that a lot of women find a lot of comfort in that identity. You know, we also have to understand that as women, it's our responsibility to stand up and claim that name, to stand up and claim that identity. It's very easy to say that the world is not giving us our space. I understand that. It's not easy for us. Absolutely not. It's not been easy for me. Yet, at every opportunity, I stood up and I claimed that name. I claimed that identity. I stood up and did that. But I see a lot of women perfectly comfortable with being known as this one's wife or that one's daughter-in-law or that one's daughter. And that's okay as well. Yet to them, they cannot then complain that the world is not handing them that identity on a platter because the world is not obligated to do that. You got to stand up and put in that effort to claim that identity as your own. This is like the other side of the coin. It's beautiful to say, oh, mero identity ho kina dena. You have to do something to be able to claim that as well. So I think that's important.
Yeah, so I think त्यो पनि एउटा चाहिँ छ कि आफ्नो आइडेन्टिटी आफैले बिल्ड पनि गर्नुपर्छ बिकज इभेन्चुली अब वर्ल्डले त हरेक कुरा प्ल्याटरमा त ल्याएर दिँदैन स्पेसली वुमेनहरूलाई त दिँदैन होइन सो यु हेभ टु लाइक गो आउट देयर and build that identity for yourself, and I hope I can do that for myself as well. So yeah, one interesting question that I had was, so as you said that you were born in 1985 and
you say it like that, I feel like I'm a dinosaur. You say 1985 like it happened 7,000 years ago, and I'm like, oh my god.
No, I mean, like, you're a bit elder to me.
Thank you.
So like women empowerment in your days, like how was it? And how do you see like life for women like कसरी change भएको छ? How do you see that change?
Women को कुरा भन्दा म आफ्नो कुरा गर्न सक्छु जस्तो लाग्छ. मेरो लेन्सबाट, मेरो न्यारेटिभबाट, मेरो वर्ल्डमा मैले हेरेको कुरा. I think my mom had a very different life from me, and my sister's daughters, my nieces have a very different life from me as well. In a lot of ways, my grandmother's life and my mom's life were not so far apart. For a lot of time, lives of women were very similar, There was no great upheaval, no great change there. Good, bad change doesn't matter. So my great-grandmother, let's say, and my grandmother, pretty much similar lives, sort of taking care of the children in the kitchen, doing that. My mother, slightly different, not that much. My life, on the other hand, is very different from my mother's, right? My mother cannot imagine a 16-hour workday, but I had so many 16-hour workdays in my life. So I think there's been a sudden change, and from me till the age of my nieces, it's again going to be a huge jump. When we talk about women empowerment, I think it's a very important movement. I think women empowerment is not only about whether she's earning or not, it's also about having the right space, the safe space to be able to use her voice, to be able to share her stories. I think women empowerment has taken pace much more rapidly in the last few years than it ever has. I would attribute a lot of this to the westernization, not just the westernization, but to the availability of different kinds of content, different kinds of media, to the access to information, to the fact that today, sitting here in Kathmandu, I can understand what the women of Spain are going through, what the women of Hawaii are going through. Just the fact that now we see so many more conversations happening because of the internet. I think women empowerment is something we talk about a lot more. For my mother, women empowerment possibly meant I don't have to keep up on that, right? For my let's look back, okay? So for my great-grandmother, maybe women empowerment, I don't know, I've never met her, so I don't know what it would have meant for her. Maybe for my grandmother, women empowerment meant I don't have to cover my face. I can show at least this much of my face. When she became older, maybe women empowerment meant that she could keep a palla till then and she could be like that. For my mother, empowerment was one year when she decided that she is not going to have a palla on her head all the time and she's going to keep her head bare. That for her was a huge step, and I know about this because I've seen that phase. I've seen that entire transition. For me, these were never questions. For me, this was not an option. I never had a palla. For the first 3 days after I got married, yes, like a nice buari, I did that. But after that, I've been wearing clothes that I'm wearing today. For me, it was never about that. It was more internal. It was never about what was visible on the outside. For me, it was more about, am I being given the free will to live the way I want, to express myself in the way I want, to be able to share my stories in the way I want, to be able to speak to the people I want to. For me, it was not about these things, yet these things are extremely strong, these are shackles. But my mother's generation had broken that. I was given a lot of things on a platter because the previous generation had come up till that level. I was given a lot more rights, yet I had to take those rights, to take all of that newfound freedom, and rather than misusing it, I had to use it in the right way. And when I say I mean people of my generation, the 32 to 38, 40-year-old people right now, right? We had to take whatever we got and we had to build on it. For the next generation, for you guys, women empowerment is completely different. It is about leading your lives in your own way. I still am not as advanced in so many ways as you are. I still have a lot more things that bind me than somebody who's 16 or 18 now. I think the girls of today are just so much more spunky. Just 2 hours ago, I was wearing a corporate suit and I was training students. I was speaking to students who are going to leave for another country to study there. And these students are much more confident than I ever was. I mean, 2 years ago I wasn't as confident as these kids are at 18 and 19. And I think that is a result of the way we've managed to empower our girls to choose and to decide for themselves. So they come with a lot more confidence than we did. And I think that's the transition and progression of women empowerment in the last 35 years that I've seen.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Women for women from different places and for women of different ages as well.
Absolutely.
And I think women I think I would like to really express my gratitude to all women who've come before me and broken the glass ceiling, because a lot of things that were not available or accessible to my mom are now available and accessible to me. And I think I'm very privileged for that.
Absolutely. You know, we take these things for granted. Yet women of one or two generations before us just could not take these things for granted, right? For my mother, I remember that my father does not drive. He's never driven a car. He had an accident within the first 1 week of learning how to drive, and he never drove after that. And my mother said, you know, somebody in this family needs to learn. For her to actually put in that effort, to have the courage to tell my grandfather that she wanted to have access to the car every day, so for 1 hour a day, so she could learn how to drive it, that was a huge hurdle for her. I mean, for her to just put in that, you know, to just go and say this to him, Papa ji, I want to learn how to drive a car. That took her every ounce of strength that she had. For me, I just bought myself a car a few months ago. I don't drive because I'm scared. I'm sort of like my dad in this. I don't drive because I'm scared. Yet I just bought my car, and I mean, nobody has to say anything. Nobody could say, question, or anything of that sort. Yet before I was buying my car, it was my husband who decided, Acha, this is the car you need. No, let's do this. You know, you don't buy this. So, you know what I mean? There's a lot of dependency, I would say, probably not in a bad way. Yet I'm still sort of always looking to him for these kind of decisions. Okay, I'm buying a car, but which one do you think I should buy? Is this too expensive? Is that, you know? So that is still there. So I think we're sort of in that place. But it's come to us. A lot of things have been much easier for us, and we need to appreciate that.
Yeah, completely acknowledging that at least I have been very privileged. I'm very grateful to the women who came before me and gave this privilege, like made it accessible for me. So there was one very interesting audience question that I would like to pose to you, because तपाईको त्यो भिडियो हाल्ने बित्तिकै like तपाईको त्यो हुन्छ नि, like I'm having an interview with Mannsi ma'am, a lot of people gave a lot of different questions. There the most interesting question was given by Nayan Kishorji, where he asked, what is the difference that you find between youth of Calcutta and youth of Kathmandu?
Oh my god, that's a great question. Nayan Kishore, great job. I've never thought about it like this. Okay, let me say it in different ways. Calcutta, if you know anything about it, hot, humid city. The youth of Calcutta do not, and I'm not generalizing this, but generally when we were growing up in Calcutta, I was a very city girl. I'm still a very city girl. You know, that upbringing is still there in me. The youth of Kathmandu are willing to take up a backpack and go out. The wanderlust here looks very different. The youth there are more like, okay, we got to study, we got to focus, we got to be indoors because it's hot, so you're in an air-conditioned environment all the time. The youth here is more willing to travel, go out, physically more active. That's just because of the geography, you know, that's just because of where you are. That's just because of the fact that you're here, you're in this beautiful place, you've got these beautiful, wonderful mountains to explore. That feeling is there. The youth of Calcutta, because of the way the geography is, because of the way the weather is, when we were in school, I didn't see so much of that movement. We were very dedicated, study, culture, music class, dance class, art class, music class, dance class, art class. That was our life, right? Calcutta is like the cultural capital of India. That's what I want to believe. And that's what is true as well in a lot of ways. So we were very much in that, we were very focused in that. The youth of Kathmandu, more about outdoor activities, more about getting out there, more about exploring, more about seeing things. And while this might seem really trivial, it changes a lot about who you are as a person. Internally, it can have huge repercussions on the way you look at the world, right? I look at everything through a cultural point of view. Somebody might look at everything through a more physical and movement point of view. Who knows, right? So I think this little thing also shapes a lot of people differently. Another big difference would be, I think, the youth of Calcutta, because of, at least we grew up in a very competitive environment. You know, my school of overachievers, I would say, I felt like a complete nobody in school, almost all the time. And a lot of my friends agree that they felt like nobody, because we have people now, I mean, the other day I saw a picture of my friend with Hillary Clinton, and then somebody else is meeting Obama and they're having conversations. One of my friends is, I don't know, a consultant for the government of South Africa. Somebody is working somewhere. So these people are doing fabulously well for themselves. My classmates, doctors, PhDs, crazy stuff. My own group, everyone's doing so well. So I felt like quite a nobody in school because of how competitive it was. But that also made each one of us naturally, inherently faster, more aggressive, more high energy, more competitive in comparison to the youth here. I think people here are just more relaxed, more loving, easier to be around, happy-go-lucky, not so driven maybe like us. Also look at it like this, when I was in school, to get into a good college, my college wasn't so difficult actually to get into. But let me just put it in perspective. My brother went to Symbiosis for media, I think SCMC, mass comm. Out of God knows how many lakhs of admission forms that were put in, 40 kids got in. Now let's look at the ratio and the percentage. I think these macro factors really change who you are inside as well. So for me, when I say that the youth there is a bit more competitive and aggressive, it's not because they're bad people or they're born like that. It's just that the environment has made them like that. So that perspective is also there. For me, I got into college. I was a gold medalist in economics. Yet, will you believe it when I told you that I did not get in the first try? I was on the third list. So there are lists put up, right? So there's one list. And if all these people take admission, then there's no other lists. If there are some seats left, then they have a second list. If everyone takes an admission, then there's no other list. If everyone doesn't and there are a few seats left, there's going to be a third list. I was on the third list, yet I topped my college. You know what I mean? So I was a good student, definitely, yet I did not make it into the first two lists of my own college, which shows, it just goes to show how competitive everything was there. So we were like that as well. For me, everything was about, okay, got 1 hour, study so that you have some hope in the future. So I think that's a huge difference. And Nayan Kishorji, maybe this is just something for you to know. If you're from Kathmandu, if you're from here, in a lot of ways you have it easy. And I think you're blessed in many, many ways. So yeah.
I think this is one difference that even I have noticed, like in difference between India and Nepal. India is very competitive because it is highly populated. So there people, it's like the survival of the fittest mentality is there, which makes things a bit difficult and which makes you a bit more resilient and also, let's say, competition driven, whereas here people are very welcoming, very, very nurturing, very loving, very compassion driven, because here there's a space for everybody.
Absolutely. It's just easier, I think. Nepal is a great place for somebody who enjoys the space of life. I do too now. Initially I didn't. I used to find everything very slow for me. And now I'm one of them. I like to take things slow. I'm working a lot myself personally, but I understand not everyone's going to be at that pace, and that's okay. I started to accept it.
That's great. Now we are moving towards the interesting segment of our show where we'll be asking questions to Mannsi ma'am on a rapid fire round, and she will be glazing like these ceramic products while she answers the questions so that she cannot fully concentrate while she's answering.
Exactly. This is a trick. This is a trick.
So we'll get the most honest answers which are not at all diplomatic from Mannsi ma'am during this phase.
Sure.
So start. How many friends did you have when you had newly come to Kathmandu?
1.
How many friends do you have now?
I don't know. I have a lot of very close friends. I would say 5 to 7 very close friends. Like people I can call at 3. 20, 30 friends and 200 acquaintances. I don't know. Yeah.
How did you manage all of that? You have to do that.
Sorry. Okay, this is trick. This is like a class, man. Okay. Yeah. So.
How did you manage to go from the journey of 1 to let's say 5 close friends?
I think over the years I've been extremely fortunate to meet some very good people who also introduced me to their friends, and then things just grow. And I think I talk quite a bit, so people just sort of like to have conversations. And I think I made most of my friends either through work or meeting people at random parties, because when you talk to people at parties, you connect. There's nothing much to do, and you just make friends. I think it's just one of those things that happen.
The most beautiful thing you find about Nepal?
The people and the weather, but the people.
The biggest challenge you faced when you shifted to Nepal. You have to do that.
I, I didn't speak the language, and I could not connect with people for a very long time. So for me personally, because of how important it is to me, that was a huge challenge. That was a huge, huge challenge.
What was your first day in Kathmandu like?
I landed in Kathmandu on the 21st of June, 2 days before I got married. Actually, I got married here. I landed 2 days before my wedding, super excited. The flight was very turbulent, yet I remember looking out of the window. I was sitting at the window seat, my sister was by my side. I remember looking out of the window and somebody's like, that's Kathmandu. And I was like, oh my god, I get to live here. You know, it was a beautiful city because it's so green and then you have the hills as you come in, right? And then the rest of the day was nice. There was a party, a small party in my husband's home. It was a good day, I remember it, but it wasn't about Kathmandu, it was more about celebrating the wedding rather than anything else.
One thing that you feel could make Nepal better, one thing that we could
A
do
sea beach. A sea beach makes anything better, but will make Nepal a lot better. If there was any way to do this, to have some kind of an outlet into the sea, I promise you I would be writing a petition and doing Narabazi outside the Prime Minister's residence for that. I think the sea beach makes anything better, right? So
yeah. I love beaches too. I really
Same,
want
same.
to go to Goa.
Same. A sea beach, 100%.
One advice you'd like to give your 21-year-old self who'd recently shifted to Nepal. You can't think a lot.
Okay, learn the language, save money, don't give up because it's going to get better.
It gets better.
It does.
One of those days when you found yourself the loneliest here.
Not one, I've had 1,500. There was a time when I was married. My husband and me used to stay in an apartment alone at that point. My son was not born yet. And he had gone away for 16 days for a trek. And there was no didi, no nothing. So I was in lockdown even that time. I didn't have work. I was just doing nothing. 16 days, I don't remember what I did. It was horrible, lonely, not suggested to anybody. It was like COVID before COVID.
Which was one of those days when you felt very comfortable, very loved, very accepted in Nepal?
7 reasons to never visit Nepal. The day after that, the day it happened, I didn't. I thought it was a prank slash virus slash something is going wrong with my Facebook. Why is this video doing so well? But the day after it happened, suddenly people are sending me cakes and there's flowers outside my house and there's the press and they want to know who I am. And I'm suddenly being accepted as Baini, Chori rather than Wali and also. So I think that was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I think that video in itself was a very beautiful video in your journey.
Yeah.
But I do know that like to come to that video, there's a lot of effort.
Absolutely.
And it's just not been that one video.
No, not at all.
So what is one advice you would like to give anybody transitioning to a new phase or a new place in their life?
You know, we look at a transition as a transition. Actually, it can be a great opportunity for transformation. You know, the word transport, is movement, right? So when people are transitioning, whether it's from one place to the other, one age to the other, one phase of your life to the other, it's a great time to change and to reinvent and to transform because there's so many differences, there's so many different things. You are out of your comfort zone, you're out of whatever you believe in to be true, and then you can look at things from a different vantage point, a different lens, and you are able to get a completely different outlook and a different understanding of who you are. So I think one advice, think of it as a transformation rather than just a transition, because a transition is a movement. A transformation is regrowth, re-evaluation, regrouping, understanding yourself, and trying to become a better version of yourself. And that's what we're all trying to do at times.
Amazing. And like the last question, what is one good thing that you love about yourself and what is one thing that you would like to change about yourself?
What do I love about myself? My mental strength. What would I like to change about myself? My BMI, my basal metabolic index. I can put on weight even if I eat nothing, as I realized. So my BMI I would like to change. I don't know how it works or if it's possible physically. Like I don't know if that works biologically, but I would like to change that given a choice. What do I love about myself? My mental strength. I think now I've grown to an age where I respect my mental strength.
I think your mental strength is what led you to transform when you shifted from Kathmandu to Nepal, from Calcutta to Kathmandu, because that journey was quite something.
Quite something. Honestly, quite something. And I think it had a huge role to play. So yeah.
Thank you so much for playing this rapid fire with me and with
Where is my coffee hamper? You've been making me do work. If I don't do work, you threaten me. God, no, this is difficult. I want coffee.
I'll be sending you a whole package of gifts by Studio Luxury by DV.
Oh, this is real.
Yeah.
I shall say that once more. Please send me more gifts.
So I will be sending you a hamper from Studio Luxury by DV, which is a new venture which deals with copper products and all sort of home decor products. So if you're interested in any sort of home decor items or copper products, then you can please follow this page. I'll put the link on the description box below. As well as today we had the shoot at Cera Nepal, which is located here in Bhaktapur. So if you guys want to come visit this place and experience some of these glazing experience or have a rapid fire with your family members while you make pottery, please do come visit Cera Nepal. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. I've come here before in the past and I did a video here. And that time we were doing pottery, like I was making pots. I wasn't good at it. I realized this isn't easy either, but this is a lot of fun for sure. So I'm enjoying this. I love this place.
Yeah, I love this place too. We wanted to do the pottery, but the parka didn't help. So I hope that when you guys visit here, the power is there and you guys can like enjoy doing pottery here as well. Please do visit Cera Nepal. I'll leave the link in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you soon in more other videos. And thank you so much, Mannsi ma'am, for being a part of our cozy conversation today.
Absolutely. I think this was a cozy conversation. This also gave me a lot of room to think and introspect, because nobody has asked me in such great detail about the transition and the transformation in my life, and it's fun to go back on a journey and to re-evaluate your life. Thank you so much for this. I truly enjoyed it.
Thank you, ma'am.